Chapter 1. The Man Who Desired Gold. In the grand city of Babylon, where wealth flowed freely through the hands of merchants and traders, there lived a man named Bansir. Bansir was a skilled chariot builder, known for his craftsmanship and dedication. Yet despite his years of hard labor, his purse was always light, and his home offered little more than the barest comforts. Each day, Bansir toiled at his trade, yet the rewards of his efforts seemed to vanish as quickly as they arrived. One afternoon, Bansir sat on the low wall outside his modest house. His tools lay idle, and his thoughts wandered. In his mind, he saw visions of golden coins clinking heavily in his purse, yet no such gold rested in his possession. His hands, strong and worn from years of labor, had crafted countless chariots for Babylon's wealthy men, yet he himself owned none of the riches they enjoyed. As Bansir sat in quiet thought, his friend Kobi appeared. Kobi, a skilled musician who entertained the wealthy with his songs, greeted Bansir with a smile. Yet Kobi's face, like Bansir's, carried the weight of weariness. "Why do you sit here idly?" asked Kobi. "Surely your chariot will not build itself." Bansir sighed deeply. "I have grown weary of working hard yet remaining poor. No matter how I labor, gold seems to slip away from me like sand through my fingers." Kobi nodded in understanding. "I know that feeling well," he said. "My songs bring joy to many, yet my purse is empty. We are skilled men, yet we possess no wealth. Why should that be?" The two friends sat in silence, reflecting on their struggles. It seemed to them that wealth was reserved only for a select few, those born into prosperity or favored by fortune. Yet even as they despaired, Bansir's mind returned to one man who had once been like them, Arkad, their old friend. "Do you remember Arkad?" Bansir asked suddenly. "He was once no richer than we are, yet now he is known as the richest man in Babylon." Kobi's face brightened with recognition. "Indeed, I remember Arkad well. He was no more skilled than you or I, yet today he commands great wealth. How did he achieve it?" Bansir's voice grew determined. "I mean to find out. Let us go to Arkad and ask him to share his wisdom. Surely he will not refuse us." With that, the two friends set off through the busy streets of Babylon. Merchants called out their wares, and camels laden with goods moved slowly past them. The scent of roasted meats and spiced wine filled the air as they made their way to Arkad's grand house. When they arrived, they found Arkad seated in a shaded courtyard, speaking with a group of men who had also come seeking his counsel. Arkad greeted Bansir and Kobi warmly, for he remembered them from their youth. "We have come seeking your wisdom," Bansir said earnestly. "We have worked hard all our lives, yet we remain poor. You were once as we are now, yet you have found a way to gather great wealth. Tell us, Arkad, what is the secret?" Arkad smiled and gestured for them to sit. "The secret is no great mystery," he began. "Wealth is built by those who understand its laws and follow them faithfully. The men of Babylon have always desired gold, yet many never learn how to keep it. I was once like them, until I learned the truths that changed my life." Bansir and Kobi leaned forward eagerly, their eyes fixed on Arkad. "We are ready to learn," Bansir said. Arkad nodded. "I shall tell you what I have learned. Long ago, I worked as a humble scribe. My earnings were meager, and like you, I spent them as quickly as I earned them. One day, I resolved that I would no longer live in poverty. I sought out Algamish, the wealthy moneylender, and asked him how he had grown so rich. Algamish told me this: "A part of all you earn is yours to keep." Those words seemed simple at first, yet they held great power. Algamish explained that I must keep at least 1/10 of all my earnings for myself. No matter what I earned or how little, I must set aside that portion. Bansir frowned. "But surely 1/10 is not enough to make a man wealthy." Arkad shook his head. "It is not the size of the portion that matters. It is the habit of keeping it. By saving that portion each time I was paid, my wealth began to grow. At first it seemed small, but soon I had enough to make wise investments. That gold multiplied, and soon I had more than I ever believed possible." Kabi looked puzzled. "But if saving 1/10 is the key, why do so many men remain poor?" "Because they spend all they earn," Arkad replied. "They believe that their earnings belong to others, the merchant for his wares, the sandal maker for his shoes, the baker for his bread. Yet if a man keeps nothing for himself, he will always be poor. No matter how much he earns, he will find his purse empty." Bansir nodded slowly. "I see now that wealth is not won by luck, but by discipline." "Indeed," Arkad agreed. "Wealth grows when gold is carefully tended. It is not magic, it is simple law. If you wish to be wealthy, begin today. Start by keeping 1/10 of all you earn and do not touch it. Soon, you will see your purse begin to fatten." Bansir and Kobi thanked Arkad for his wisdom and departed with newfound hope. As they walked home through the streets of Babylon, their thoughts turned not to their struggles but to their future, a future filled with promise, for they now understood the first great truth of wealth. And so, with quiet determination, they resolved to begin that very day to keep a part of all they earned. Chapter 2: The Richest Man in Babylon. When I think back upon the days of my youth, I remember well how empty my purse was and how heavily my heart weighed as I wondered why fortune seemed to favor some men while turning away from others. I worked as a humble scribe, diligently inscribing tablets of law and business records for the merchants of Babylon. My wages, though steady, never seemed enough to lift me from my struggles. I recall a day when my fortunes began to change. That day, as I toiled late into the night, the great moneylender Algamish entered my master's shop. He carried a stern face and a sharp voice, demanding that a set of tablets be finished by the next morning. My master protested that the work could not be done in so little time, but I saw an opportunity. "I shall complete the tablets," I offered, "if you will tell me how you have come to possess such wealth." Algamish agreed. That night I worked tirelessly, my fingers aching and my eyes heavy with fatigue. Yet when morning came, the tablets were finished. True to his word, Algamish returned and examined my work. Pleased, he sat down beside me and spoke. "I see in you a hunger for knowledge," he said. "So listen well, for I shall teach you what few men understand. Wealth is not won by chance, nor is it the result of fate. Wealth comes only to those who know its laws and obey them." I listened eagerly, determined to remember every word. "The first lesson is this," he said. "A part of all you earn is yours to keep. No matter how small your wages, you must set aside a portion for yourself. Pay yourself first, before you pay the merchant, the cloth maker, or even the food seller. 1/10 of all you earn is yours to keep and grow." At first, his words seemed too simple. "But if I keep only 1/10, I asked, "how shall I pay for my needs? My wages are barely enough to cover my expenses now." Algamish chuckled. "That is because you confuse your desires with your needs," he said. "If you learn to live upon 9/10 of what you earn, you will find that you still have enough for your household. Gold grows for the man who keeps it and multiplies for the man who invests it wisely. Pay yourself first, Arkad, and watch as your purse swells." I followed his advice. Each time I received my wages, I placed 1/10 aside. At first, my purse seemed no heavier, but in time, I saw my coins begin to pile up. The sight brought me great satisfaction, yet I knew I must learn to make those coins multiply. One day, I met a brickmaker named Asmor. He spoke of a great opportunity: to invest in a caravan carrying rare jewels from far-off lands. Eager to grow my savings, I gave him my gold to join the venture. Weeks passed, and when Asmor returned, he brought only bad news. The thieves of the desert had seized the caravan, and all was lost. Disheartened, I returned to Algamish and confessed my failure. "Foolish Arkad," he scolded, "did you ask a brickmaker how to trade jewels? Would you ask the baker to fashion a chariot wheel? No. Seek the wisdom of those who know. Ask the jeweler about jewels. Ask the moneylender about gold." To entrust your savings to those unskilled in its management is to court disaster. I learned then that wealth must not only be saved but guarded and guided by wisdom. Determined to do better, I followed Algamish's advice. I entrusted my gold to Agur, the shield maker, who understood the trade of metal and knew how to profit by it. In time, my gold returned to me with interest, and I rejoiced at my growing wealth. Yet still, Algamish cautioned me. Be patient, he warned. Wealth grows slowly, like a tree from a tiny seed. Do not be tempted to spend your gains too quickly. Let your gold work for you and earn more gold. With each passing year, I grew wiser and richer. My investments prospered, and my purse became heavy with coins. I purchased land, lent gold to trustworthy men, and saw my wealth multiply. Years later, Algamish returned to Babylon. When he heard of my success, he smiled proudly. You have learned well, he said. You are no longer the scribe I met that night. You have become a man who understands the ways of wealth. Continue to follow these truths, and gold shall always find its way into your hands. From that day forward, I followed Algamish's teachings faithfully. I kept 1/10 of all I earned, invested it wisely, and guarded my wealth from loss. My gold grew steadily, and my purse was never again empty. Now I share these truths with you so that you may prosper as I have. Remember this: wealth grows for the man who saves a portion of all he earns. Wealth labors for the man who puts it to wise use. And wealth flees the man who entrusts it to those unskilled in its handling. These are the truths I learned from Algamish, and they are the foundation of all prosperity. Guard them well, and gold shall flow into your purse as steadily as the waters of the Euphrates flow through the gates of Babylon. Chapter 3. 7 Cures for a Lean Purse. Not long after I had come into wealth, the king of Babylon sent for me. He had heard of my prosperity and wished to speak with me. When I stood before him, he greeted me warmly. Arkad, he said, our city is great, our walls are strong, and our markets are full. Yet still, too many of my people struggle with empty purses. They work hard, yet remain poor. I have heard it said that you have discovered the secret to wealth. Will you teach my people how they may prosper as you have? I bowed low and said, O king, what you ask is wise. The men of Babylon can grow rich, if they but understand the simple laws of wealth. If it pleases you, I shall teach them. The king was pleased, and he summoned 100 men from all trades and stations of life, merchants, farmers, laborers, and craftsmen. Before them I spoke and shared the wisdom that had brought me riches. I called these lessons the 7 Cures for a Lean Purse. The first cure, I began, is simple yet powerful. Start thy purse to fattening. No matter how small your earnings, save 1/10 of all you earn. Pay yourself first. For every 10 coins you place in your purse, spend but 9. You will find your purse swelling and your confidence rising. A fattened purse brings comfort to the soul and strength to the spirit. I looked out among the crowd and saw some faces filled with doubt. You may think your earnings are too small to save, I added, but let me assure you, every man can save a part of what he earns. Wealth does not come by accident, it comes by purpose. Begin today. Place 1/10 aside and let it rest undisturbed. In time, you shall see your wealth grow. I allowed my words to settle before continuing. The second cure, I said, is this: control thy expenditures. Many believe that what they earn is barely enough to meet their needs. Yet I say this: what each man calls his necessary expenses will always grow to match his income, unless he controls it. Confuse not your desires with your necessities. Consider your spending with care, and you will find that you can live well on far less than you imagine. The crowd murmured, for many knew this to be true. Learn to budget your gold, I said firmly. Set aside enough to pay for your true needs, yet still save 1/10. Desires are endless. Only through control can a man remain master of his purse. The third cure, I continued, is to make thy gold multiply. Once you have begun to save, put your gold to work. Gold that rests idle is but a lazy servant. Let your savings earn interest, and let those earnings earn more. A man's gold should labor for him as tirelessly as he labors for his master. This is how the wealthy grow richer. I saw several heads nod in agreement, and so I pressed on. The fourth cure, I declared, is this: guard thy treasures from loss. The man who invests unwisely is sure to lose his gold. Seek the counsel of wise men before parting with your savings. Do not be tempted by promises of impossible gains. If a man offers you profits that seem too great, know that risk lies in his words. Trust only in investments where your principal is safe, and you are sure to earn a fair return. I pause to let this warning linger. I have seen too many good men fall into ruin by trusting their gold to men who knew not how to handle it. Take care that your gold is well protected. The fifth cure, I continued, is to make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. If a man pays rent year after year, his purse grows lighter. Instead, own your home. A home provides shelter for your family, and its value belongs to you. Each payment you make to own your house is like a coin placed in your own purse. Let each man strive to claim his own dwelling. I saw some faces brighten at this, for many knew the burden of endless rent. The sixth cure, I went on, is this: ensure a future income. Life is uncertain, and no man can know what tomorrow may bring. A man must plan for the days when his strength fades. Invest in property, secure dependable income, and provide for your family. The man who prepares for the future shall not fear old age or misfortune. Some men in the crowd exchanged glances, and I knew my words had struck home. The seventh cure, I said at last, is the greatest of all. Increase thy ability to earn. A man's wealth grows only as his skill grows. Study your trade, improve your skills, and learn from those wiser than yourself. The more you know, the more you can earn. The more you earn, the more you can save and invest. I let my gaze move across the crowd, allowing these final words to sink in. The man who masters these 7 cures shall know the joy of a full purse. He shall prosper not by chance, but by purpose and wisdom. When I finished, the men rose and thanked me. Some were eager to begin saving, while others resolved to invest their gold more wisely. Yet all who listened understood that wealth was not a matter of luck. It was built by the choices they made each day. The king was pleased with my teaching, and soon the wisdom of these 7 cures spread throughout Babylon. The purses of many began to grow fat, and the people of Babylon knew prosperity unlike ever before. And so I say to you, if your purse is lean and your heart heavy, remember these words. Save a part of what you earn, spend wisely, invest carefully, own your home, prepare for the future, and always strive to improve your skills. If you follow these cures faithfully, you too shall know the comfort of a full purse and the peace of a secure future. Chapter 4. Meet the Goddess of Good Luck. Many years ago, I sat among friends in the Temple of Learning, listening to the words of the wise. The talk had turned to fortune, that strange and unpredictable visitor who seemed to smile upon some men while ignoring others. Some claimed luck was nothing but chance, a gift to those favored by the gods. Others insisted that luck could be courted and won, like a bride by a persistent suitor. I listened carefully, for I knew well that good fortune had played little part in my success. My wealth had come by my own effort, yet I had often wondered why some men seemed ever to prosper, while others, who worked just as hard, remained poor. A young man rose to speak. Luck, he declared confidently, is but a roll of the dice. No man can summon it at will. Those who win its favor are merely fortunate. The gathering murmured in agreement, yet one man, an elderly merchant named Sharu Nada, shook his head. You are wrong, he said firmly. Luck does not favor men by chance alone. I have seen fortune smile most often upon those who prepare for her visit. She comes most willingly to those who are ready to grasp opportunity when it appears. Curious, I asked him to explain. Long ago, Charunata began, I was but an apprentice in a rug shop. One evening, my master overheard a wealthy merchant saying that he wished to purchase a large quantity of fine rugs to sell in a distant city. My master, knowing this, sent word to the merchant that he had just the rugs he desired. In truth, my master had no such supply, but the moment the merchant agreed to visit our shop, my master and I worked through the night, borrowing rugs from other shops, arranging them neatly in our stalls, and preparing to display them as our own. When the merchant arrived the next morning, he was impressed by what he saw. He purchased the entire collection, paying handsomely for our goods. My master profited greatly, and I too earned a generous reward for my part in the effort. Was this merely luck? Charunade asked. I think not. My master saw an opportunity and seized it. Had he hesitated or delayed, the merchant might have taken his business elsewhere. Luck is but opportunity in disguise, and it comes most often to those who are prepared to act. I pondered Charunata's story. It seemed clear that fortune favored those who recognized opportunity and had the courage to pursue it. Yet still, I wondered why some men always seem to miss these golden chances. I soon learned why when my friend Dabasir shared his own tale. He had once been a young camel trader, eager for success yet forever plagued by misfortune. Whenever opportunity knocked, Dabasir hesitated. He doubted himself, fearing that failure would follow if he reached too far. One day, while in the marketplace, Dabasir overheard a merchant speak of a wealthy caravan master who sought strong camels for his journey across the desert. Dabasir knew a man who owned such camels, yet instead of acting at once, he delayed. Tomorrow, he told himself, tomorrow I shall speak with the merchant. But when tomorrow came, the caravan master had already found his camels elsewhere. Dabasir's hesitation had cost him dearly. From that day, Dabasir told me, I learned that good luck waits for no man. She smiles upon those who seize opportunity with swift hands and bold hearts. I thought long on these stories and came to understand that fortune was not a fickle visitor, but a willing ally to those who prepared themselves and acted with courage. The man who waits for luck to find him often waits in vain, while the man who acts swiftly finds her waiting by his side. In my own life, I have seen this truth many times. When I was yet a young scribe, a merchant once offered me a small sum to inscribe a set of records. Though the pay was meager, I accepted eagerly, knowing that by proving myself, greater rewards might follow. In time, that merchant introduced me to others, and before long my skills were in high demand. Had I refused that first humble task, I might never have found the path to wealth. And so I say to you, the goddess of good luck is ever watchful, seeking those who are ready to act. She favors not the lazy, nor the fearful, but the man who makes swift decisions and grasps opportunity when it appears. If you wish to attract fortune, be prepared. Sharpen your skills, watch for opportunities, and act without delay. Hesitation is the enemy of good luck, for opportunity will not wait for a man who lingers. The man who claims that luck has passed him by is often the man who let opportunity slip from his grasp. But the man who prospers is the man who stands ready, with purse in hand, to seize the golden chance when it comes. Good luck is no mystery, nor is it a gift given to the chosen few. It is the reward of those who are prepared to meet it. Prepare yourself well, and the goddess of good luck shall smile upon you. Chapter 5: The 5 Laws of Gold. I have often heard men speak of gold as though it were some elusive spirit, one that slips through their fingers and vanishes the moment they try to hold it. They call it mysterious, unpredictable, and claim that only the fortunate can win its favor. Yet I say this is not true, for gold is governed by laws as steadfast as the seasons. He who understands these laws may gather gold as surely as the farmer gathers his harvest. Let me tell you of the time I first learned these laws. When I was yet a young man, I found myself standing before Algamish, the wise and wealthy moneylender who had taught me the value of saving 1/10 of all I earned. Seeing that I had grown diligent in my efforts, he deemed me worthy of further instruction. "Arkad," he said, "since you have learned to keep gold, you must now learn to make it grow. Gold is a faithful servant to those who understand its ways, yet a cruel master to those who ignore its nature. Therefore, I shall teach you the 5 laws of gold. Remember them well, for they hold the keys to lasting wealth." I listened closely as Algamish began. "The first law of gold," he said, "is this: gold comes gladly and in increasing quantity to the man who saves at least 1/10 of his earnings. This is the foundation of all wealth. As the sun rises each day, so shall your purse grow, if you save faithfully. Gold loves the man who sets aside a portion of his earnings and refuses to spend it foolishly. The man who pays himself first will soon find that gold multiplies in his purse." I remembered well how my own savings had grown when I began this practice. At first, the portion seemed small, yet with each coin added, my purse grew heavier. Before long, I had more gold than I had ever imagined possible. "The second law of gold," Algamish continued, "is this: gold labors diligently and multiplies for the man who puts it to wise use. Gold is not content to sit idle, it desires to be put to work. The man who invests his savings in sound ventures shall see his gold increase, for gold grows when given the chance to earn. Just as the farmer plants grain in his field and reaps many-fold at harvest, so shall a man's gold multiply if he invests it wisely." I recalled the day I had trusted Agur the shield maker with my gold. He knew his craft well and turned my investment into steady profits. Each season, I received my share, and my gold increased steadily. I saw then that gold indeed labors for those who understand how to put it to work. "The third law of gold," said Algamish, "is this: gold clings to the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of wise men. Many are the tales of those who lost their gold by trusting the words of fools. Seek always the counsel of those skilled in handling money. Ask the jeweler about jewels, the merchant about trade, and the moneylender about lending. A man who follows the wisdom of experienced men will keep his gold safe and secure." I had once ignored this law and learned my lesson the hard way. I remembered well how I had given my first savings to Asmer the brickmaker, who sought to trade jewels, a venture he knew nothing about. My gold was lost, and I realized too late that I had placed my trust in the wrong hands. Had I sought the guidance of a man wise in jewels, I would have been spared my loss. "The fourth law of gold," Algamish warned, "is this: gold slips away from the man who invests it in things he does not understand. Be wary of schemes that promise riches overnight. The man who seeks to grow rich quickly often finds his purse emptied swiftly instead. Gold is not won by careless chance, but by patient effort and wise decisions." I recalled many men who had been lured by promises of great fortune, only to find themselves left with nothing. Gold flees those who risk it unwisely, and I knew now that wisdom and patience were a man's best protection. "The fifth law of gold," said Algamish with great emphasis, "is this: gold flees the man who forces it to impossible earnings, or follows the foolish advice of tricksters. A man who trusts his gold to wild schemes or seeks impossible profits shall surely lose it. The path to wealth is steady and sure, never reckless and hurried." These words struck me deeply, for I had once seen a friend lose his entire fortune by pursuing a scheme that promised impossible returns. Greed had blinded him to the dangers, and his gold had vanished as swiftly as dry leaves in the wind. "Remember these 5 laws well," said Algamish. "The man who understands them shall never be without gold. No matter how small his beginning, he shall build a fortune by following these truths. The man who ignores these laws shall struggle with empty hands, no matter how great his earnings." I thanked Algamish for his wisdom, and from that day forward I kept the 5 laws close to my heart, Each time I saved, I remembered that my gold must be put to work. When I invested, I sought the counsel of wise men. When I faced tempting schemes that promised impossible profits, I turned away, knowing that gold flees the careless. I have since seen these laws proven true in the lives of many men. The merchant who saves and invests grows wealthy. The laborer who keeps nothing for himself remains poor. The foolish man who chases after quick riches is left with empty hands, while the wise man who follows steady principles prospers. Gold is not mysterious, nor does it belong only to those born with privilege. It belongs to those who follow its laws, laws that are simple yet powerful. If you would build wealth, begin now. Save 1/10 of all you earn. Invest it wisely. Guard it well. Seek the counsel of those wiser than you, and let no fool tempt you to risk it on wild hopes. These are the 5 laws of gold, and they are the surest path to lasting riches. Follow them faithfully, and your purse shall grow fat, your heart shall be light, and your days shall be filled with prosperity. Chapter 6. The Gold Lender of Babylon. Not long ago, I found myself speaking with my friend Rodan, a spearmaker of Babylon. Rodan had recently received a generous reward from the king for crafting a particularly fine spear, and now he found himself burdened with more gold than he had ever possessed. While others might have celebrated their fortune, Rodan's face was troubled. "Arkad," he said to me, "I know you to be wise in the ways of gold. I come to you for counsel, for I fear that this gift will soon slip from my fingers if I do not learn how to protect it." "What troubles you?" I asked. "My sister's husband has come to me, begging that I lend him my gold so that he may invest in trade," Rodan explained. "He claims it will bring great returns, yet I am unsure. I fear that if I refuse him, I will offend my family. But if I give him the gold, I may lose all I have." "Your fear is well-founded," I told him. "A man must be as wise in lending gold as he is in earning it. Let me tell you of the lessons I have learned from Mathon, the gold lender of Babylon. In my younger years, when I had first begun to gather gold, I sought the advice of Mathon, a man known throughout Babylon for his skill in lending gold. He welcomed me to his house, where shelves lined with tablets recorded the many debts owed to him. "Tell me, Mathon," I asked, "how do you lend gold and still keep your wealth secure?" Mathon smiled and reached for a small chest beside him. From it, he drew forth a collection of rings, some adorned with fine gems, others plain yet weighty. "These," he explained, "are the pledges given to me by those who have borrowed my gold. Each represents a debt, yet not all are equal." He lifted a fine gold ring, set with a dazzling ruby. "This," he said, "was given to me by a wealthy merchant who sought gold to expand his business. He repaid me quickly, and I gladly lent to him again. This ring is my token of his honesty and reliability." Next, he held up a ring of polished brass. "This," he said, "was pledged by a careless fool who sought gold to fund wild plans. He promised me great returns, yet he failed to repay me. His dreams collapsed, and my gold vanished with them. I keep this ring to remind me that gold is safest in the hands of those who understand its value." Finally, Mathon held up a heavy iron band. "This belongs to a farmer," he said. "Though he is not wealthy, he works hard and repays his debts with great care. He pledged his land as security, and I trust him. I know he will honor his word." I asked Mathon how he decided to whom he should lend. "I lend only to those whose plans I understand," he said. "The merchant I trust because I know his trade. The farmer I trust because I know the value of his land. But the fool with grand dreams, I gave him gold only once, and I shall never lend to him again." Mathon's wisdom struck me deeply. "Gold," he said, "is the most cautious of friends. It flees from those who place it in foolish hands, yet it multiplies for those who invest it wisely." I told Rodan this story, and he nodded thoughtfully. "So you say I should refuse my brother-in-law's request?" he asked. "I say this," I replied. "Lend only to those whose plans you understand, and whose ability to repay you is certain. Your gold is not a gift, nor should it be given merely out of friendship. A man who lends unwisely risks not only his gold but his peace of mind." Rodan sighed. But if I refuse him, will I not offend my family? A true friend does not ask you to risk your fortune for his uncertain plans, I said. If your brother-in-law's venture is sound, he will find another to support him. If it is not, your gold will vanish, and he will have gained nothing but your regret. Rodin thanked me for my counsel and departed. Many months later, he returned to me with news. I followed your advice, he said. I refused my brother-in-law's request, though I feared he would be angry. In truth, he was offended at first, but soon he found another lender, one less cautious than I. His venture failed, and that man's gold was lost. Rodin smiled proudly. Instead, I invested my gold with a merchant skilled in trade. My gold earned me steady profits, and my purse is now heavier than ever before. I was pleased to hear of Rodin's success, for I knew that he had learned one of the most valuable lessons about wealth. Gold must be guarded as carefully as a flock is guarded from wolves. Trust not your gold to those who cannot repay it. Lend it only to those whose purpose is sound, whose ability is proven, and whose pledge is secure. Gold is not to be given lightly, nor should a man part with it simply out of pity or sentiment. Many are the fools who have lost their fortunes by lending to those with neither skill nor wisdom. If you would be wealthy, remember the lesson of Mathon, the gold lender of Babylon. Gold is a faithful servant to the wise and a swift betrayer to the careless. Treat it with respect, and it will multiply. Hand it to the fool, and it will vanish like smoke in the wind. Lend wisely, invest with care, and let no man beguile you with promises of impossible returns. In this way your gold shall remain safe, and your purse shall grow ever heavier. Chapter 7. The Walls of Babylon. In the days when the great city of Babylon stood as a shining jewel upon the earth, a mighty siege came upon her gates. From across the desert sands, a powerful army had gathered, fierce and terrible, determined to plunder the wealth of our prosperous city. Their war chariots stretched far as the eye could see, and their warriors roared like lions eager to tear flesh. The people of Babylon watched from the walls, their hearts troubled. Mothers clutched their children tightly, merchants wrung their hands in fear, and even the mighty warriors of Babylon gazed anxiously at the countless invaders gathering before them. I remember well the voice of Banzar, an old and seasoned guard who had manned the walls since his youth. He stood tall at his post, his spear held firmly in his hand. Many younger men, new to the ways of war, came to him seeking comfort. Banzar, they asked, will these walls hold? Can they protect us from so fierce an enemy? Banzar's face was calm, his voice strong and certain. The walls of Babylon have stood for many generations, he said. They are built high and thick, formed from bricks hardened in the blazing kilns of our city. Each stone was laid by skilled craftsmen, and their foundations are deep and unshakable. These walls have protected Babylon before, and they shall protect her again. But the enemy is strong, a young guard cried. They have mighty warriors and powerful siege engines. Surely no wall can resist them forever. Banzar shook his head. The strength of our walls lies not only in their thickness, but in the wisdom of those who built them. Long before these invaders were born, the men of Babylon planned for this day. They knew that wealth invites envy, and that envy invites war. So they built these walls high enough to deny any ladder, and thick enough to withstand the strongest battering ram. His voice grew firm. Have courage! The enemy may howl and rage outside the gates, but while we keep our courage and stand watch, they shall not pass. These walls shall hold. For many days the invaders battered at the gates. They launched great stones from their siege engines, and their warriors hurled fire against our walls. Yet the bricks held fast. The flames licked and smoked, but the walls did not burn. The battering rams crashed again and again, yet the gates stood firm. Each night the men of Babylon stood at their posts, trusting in the strength of their city's defenses. Each day, Banzar walked along the wall, calling to the guards, Be strong, he reminded them. These walls were built by wise men who knew the power of preparation. They did not trust in chance. They built for the storm while the sky was still clear. Soon the enemy's supplies dwindled, and their army grew weak. The long days of waiting under the hot sun and cold nights had drained their strength. They had hoped to break Babylon with fire and force, yet Babylon's walls had refused to yield. On the morning of the 12th day, the enemy withdrew. Their banners trailed limply behind them, and their warriors, tired and broken, staggered back across the desert sands. The people of Babylon rejoiced. They gathered in the streets to cheer and offer thanks to the gods. Yet wise men knew that it was not the gods alone that had saved Babylon. It was the wisdom of those who had built the great walls, the men who had planned for trouble long before trouble arrived. That night, I visited Banzar, where he stood proudly at his post. "You are right," I told him. "The walls held firm." He smiled. "The strength of a man," he said, "is not measured only by his courage in battle, but by his wisdom in preparation." The same is true of wealth. Just as Babylon's walls were built to withstand the storm, so too must a man build defenses around his fortune. The man who guards his gold as Babylon guards her gates shall know peace in the face of hardship. I asked him what sort of defenses a man should build to protect his wealth. "A wise man," Banzar said, "divides his gold. He invests it in many ventures so that no single misfortune can destroy it all. He avoids foolish risks, trusting only those whose wisdom has been proven. He keeps a portion of his wealth safe, untouched by danger, just as the treasures of Babylon are locked safely away inside these walls." He laid a hand upon the stones. "A wall is not built in a day, nor is a fortune secured by sudden gain. Just as these walls were built brick by brick, so must a man build his wealth steadily, adding coin upon coin. The wise man begins while his purse is light and continues patiently until his fortune is strong enough to withstand the storms of life." I thought deeply on his words, for I saw their wisdom. Just as Babylon had faced her enemies with calm certainty, so too should a man face the troubles of life with quiet confidence, knowing that his gold is protected by the defenses he has built. Many believe that wealth is won by chance or lost by fate, yet I say this: fortune favors the man who prepares. Trouble comes to all men in time, to the merchant whose ships are lost at sea, to the farmer whose crops are struck by drought, and to the craftsman whose tools are stolen. Yet the man who has guarded his wealth, who has built a solid defense through careful saving and wise investing, shall withstand hardship and emerge strong. The walls of Babylon stood because they were built before the enemy arrived. So too must a man prepare before misfortune strikes. Build your defenses early, and they shall keep you safe when the storms of life rage. Guard your gold with the same care that Babylon's guards defended her mighty walls. Keep a portion safe where no harm may reach it. Invest wisely in ventures that stand firm like strong bricks. And above all, remain vigilant, for no man may know when trouble will come. The walls of Babylon are strong because they were built by men who understood the value of preparation. Let every man learn from them. Build your walls now, and when hardship comes, you shall stand as secure as Babylon stood before her enemies. Chapter 8. The Camel Trader of Babylon. I remember well the story of Dabasir, the camel trader of Babylon, for it is one that speaks to every man who has faced hardship and sought to rise above it. Dabasir was once a man of wealth, yet through careless living and foolish choices, he fell into terrible debt. For many years his life was one of sorrow and suffering. But through courage and discipline, he rebuilt his fortune and found prosperity once more. I first met Dabasir when he was already a man of means, yet he told me that there was a time when he wandered the streets of Babylon with nothing but rags upon his back and hunger in his belly. There was a time, Dabasir told me, when I believed I was doomed to be a slave to misfortune. I had borrowed freely, spending as if my purse were endless. I bought fine clothes, feasted often, and entertained many friends. I ignored the warnings of wise men, for I believed that gold would always flow into my hands. But gold flees from the man who does not respect it, and soon I found myself drowning in debt. Dabasir's creditors demanded their payments, but he had nothing to give. In time, they seized all that he possessed. Desperate to escape their demands, he fled Babylon and wandered aimlessly, until at last he was captured by desert raiders. They carried him into a distant land and sold him as a slave. In that foreign land, Dabasir said, I labored under the scorching sun, toiling with heavy burdens upon my back. My master was cruel, and my heart grew heavy with despair. I believed I would die a slave, far from my home, with no hope of freedom. But fate is often kinder to those who refuse to surrender. One day, Dabasir's master sent him to work for his wife, a kind-hearted woman who saw that Dabasir was no common slave. She questioned him about his past, and Dabasir confessed his foolishness, how he had once lived richly, only to lose everything through waste and neglect. Why do you not return to Babylon and repay what you owe? She asked him. I have nothing, Dabasir replied bitterly. I have no gold, and my debts are greater than I can repay. The woman frowned. You speak as one without courage, she said. If you are an honorable man, you will find a way. A man's soul is no slave unless he accepts his fate. If you are determined to repay your debts, you shall find a way. Her words struck Dabasir deeply. That night, as he lay beneath the desert sky, he thought long on her counsel. Have I no soul? He asked himself. Have I no courage to rise again? Am I to die a slave because I have lost my gold? He resolved then that he would no longer be a man of shame. If the gods would grant him a chance, he would return to Babylon, face his debts, and rebuild his life. Fortune favored me, Dabasir told me, for not long after, I escaped from my master's camp and found my way back to Babylon. I returned with nothing but a tattered robe upon my back and a resolve burning in my heart. Upon his return, Dabasir sought out each of his creditors. To each he promised repayment. Though some laughed at him and others scorned his efforts, he refused to be discouraged. I knew I could not repay all at once, he said, so I divided my earnings. Of each 10 coins I earned, I kept 1 for myself. I spent 7 upon my living, and I gave the remaining 2 to my creditors. It was slow at first, but as I continued faithfully, my debts began to shrink. Dabasir's creditors soon saw that he was sincere. Some who had doubted him before now encouraged him, for they knew that a man who keeps his word is a man worthy of trust. As my debts grew smaller, Dabasir explained, I found that I walked with greater pride. No longer did I skulk through the streets in shame. I knew that I was becoming an honorable man once more. Years passed, and at last, Dabasir had repaid every coin he owed. By then, he had also grown skilled in trading camels and had gathered enough gold to build a comfortable life for himself. Yet the greatest wealth I earned, Dabasir told me, was my self-respect. For a man who faces his troubles and masters them finds strength that no thief can steal. I tell you this story because there are many men who feel trapped by debt or misfortune. They believe they cannot rise from their struggles, that their fate is sealed. Yet Dabasir's tale proves that no man is truly defeated unless he surrenders his courage. If you find yourself in debt, do as Dabasir did. Face your creditors honestly. Divide your earnings wisely. Save 1/10 for yourself. Live on 7/10, and pay your debts faithfully with the remaining 2/10. Let no man tell you that your burden is too great or your troubles too deep. Steady effort, combined with determination, can overcome the greatest of hardships. Just as Dabasir escaped slavery and restored his honor, so too can any man rise from debt and despair. The path is not swift, nor is it easy, but the man who takes one step at a time will find himself stronger with each step he takes. He who repays his debts builds for himself a future of peace and security. He who faces his troubles bravely will stand tall among men. Remember the lesson of Dabasir. Gold flees from the careless spender, but gold flows steadily to the man who keeps his promises, guards his purse, and faces his hardships with courage. Wealth does not come to those who surrender, but to those who rise again after falling. Be as Dabasir. Face your troubles, keep your word, and master your fate. In time, fortune shall smile upon you, and your days of struggle shall become your proudest victory. Chapter 9. The Clay Tablets from Babylon. There are many who believe that the wisdom of the ancients has been lost with the passing of time, yet I tell you this is not so. The lessons that guided the wise men of old are as true today as they were when first spoken. And I can prove this by sharing with you the words found upon the clay tablets of Babylon, tablets that record the journey of a man who lifted himself from ruin to prosperity by following simple yet powerful truths. These tablets were written by Dabasir, the camel trader of Babylon, the same man whose story I have told before. In his own hand, he recorded his struggles, his failures, and the path he followed to reclaim his honor and build his wealth anew. I have read these tablets, and their words remain as clear in my mind as if they had been written but yesterday. On the first tablet, Dabasir wrote of the sorrow that filled his heart when he returned to Babylon from slavery. He spoke of the shame he felt, knowing he had betrayed the trust of those who had once lent him gold. He described the burden of debt that weighed upon his shoulders, and how he feared that no effort could ever free him from the pit he had dug. Yet Dabasir was determined to restore himself. He sought counsel from the wise men of Babylon, and their advice he recorded on the second tablet. "Divide what you earn," they told him, "and with each coin you receive, set aside portions for your needs, your future, and your debts." Dabasir wrote that he followed this counsel with unwavering discipline. Of every 10 coins he earned, he kept one for himself, no matter how small his wages. This, the wise men had taught him, was the beginning of wealth. By setting aside a portion for himself, Dabasir would at last feel the comfort of a growing purse, and no longer dread the days of misfortune. The next 2 coins he set aside for his creditors. Though the amounts seemed small at first, he recorded each payment faithfully. To each man he owed, he gave an honest account of his progress. Some doubted him at first, believing he would fail, yet Dabasir knew that steady effort would overcome their doubts. The remaining 7 coins he kept for his household and his living. "Spend no more than this," the wise men had warned him, "or you shall fail." And so Dabasir kept his spending modest, denying himself unnecessary pleasures and learning to live within his means. On the third tablet, Dabasir wrote of his struggles. He described the temptations that had often called to him, the feasts with friends, the costly garments he once loved, the sweet wine and idle pleasures that had once drained his purse. Many times he was tempted to break his plan, yet he resisted, reminding himself that true wealth could not grow if he spent all he earned. "The path was slow," Dabasir wrote. "At first my gold seemed to grow too slowly to matter. Yet as the seasons passed, I began to see the fruits of my efforts. My gold grew steadily, and the burden of debt upon my shoulders grew lighter." On the fourth tablet, Dabasir recorded his triumph. One by one, his debts vanished. Each time he paid a creditor in full, he felt a greater sense of pride and strength. His purse, once empty, now grew heavy. With each passing year, he found himself richer, not only in gold, but in self-respect. "I have learned," Dabasir wrote, "that a man's soul is strongest when he faces his troubles with courage. I once believed that I was powerless against my debts, yet I see now that my debts were powerless against my steady resolve." On the final tablet, Dabasir offered this wisdom to all who would read his words. "The man who faces his debts with honesty and discipline shall find that they can be conquered. A man's gold must be divided with care, a portion saved for himself, a portion to repay his debts, and the rest spent wisely. In this way, gold will grow, debts will vanish, and prosperity will surely come." I share these words with you, not as a tale from distant lands, but as a truth that applies to every man. The clay tablets of Babylon reveal that wealth is not won by chance or by sudden fortune. It is built by steady effort and careful planning. If you carry debts that weigh upon you, take courage in Dabasir's example. Do not hide from your creditors or believe that your burden is too great to bear. Instead, face them openly and offer what you can. Keep a portion of your earnings for yourself, for a man who keeps nothing for himself can never prosper. Use another portion to repay your debts, even if the amounts are small. And with what remains, meet your living costs, yet spend no more than this. Wealth is no mystery to those who follow these simple steps. As surely as Dabasir paid his debts and found wealth once more, so too can any man who follows these ancient truths. The wisdom found upon those clay tablets has guided the wise for generations. They reveal that fortune is not won by luck or by chance, but by patience, discipline, and the courage to face one's troubles. He who follows these teachings shall see his gold grow, his debts vanish, and his days be filled with prosperity and peace. If your purse is empty or your debts are heavy, take heart. For the path to wealth is open to all men who are willing to follow the wisdom of those who have walked it before. Take one step, then another, and in time you shall find yourself a master of your gold, no longer its slave. Chapter 10. The Luckiest Man in Babylon. There are many who say that fortune smiles only upon those who are favored by the gods, yet I tell you that fortune favors the man who knows how to grasp opportunity when it presents itself. Luck is not found by idle men who wait with empty hands. Instead, it comes to those who prepare themselves and act swiftly when chance knocks. I remember well the story told to me by Shahrunada, a wealthy merchant of Babylon, whose life had once been filled with hardship. His tale reveals how even the man burdened by misfortune may rise to greatness if he seizes the right opportunity. I was not always a merchant, Shahrunada told me one evening as we sat by his fireside. There was a time when I was no more than a slave, a man who believed that luck had turned her face from me forever. His voice was calm, but I could see in his eyes the weight of past struggles. As a young man, he continued, I was careless with my gold. I spent freely and thought little of tomorrow. I believed that pleasure was the purpose of life, and I gave no thought to saving or investing. When creditors pressed me for repayment, I had nothing to give. I fled from my debts, only to be captured and sold as a slave. Yet even as a slave, I resolved that I would not live in despair. I knew that fate is but the servant of the man who knows his own strength. I vowed that if fortune ever showed me her face again, I would grasp her firmly and never let her go. He paused, as if remembering those dark days. My master, Megiddo, was a man of great strength and discipline. He believed that a man's worth was measured not by his station in life, but by his determination. He set me to hard labor in his brickyard, and though the work was cruel and the sun merciless, I labored without complaint. Each night, I would ask Megiddo to teach me his ways, for I wished to learn how a man could rise above his misfortunes. A man who respects his work will never be a slave, Megiddo told me. Work hard, seek knowledge, and when fortune smiles upon you, you will be ready. I took his words to heart. Each day I learned more about the trade of bricks and mortar, and each night I watched carefully how merchants carried their goods to the market. I knew that the day might come when opportunity would present itself, and I was determined to be ready. That day came when a great merchant named Aradgula arrived in Babylon. He had purchased a caravan of fine cloth, but lacked the men to carry it to market. Word reached my master, and he offered my services, for I had shown myself to be reliable and quick to learn. You shall go with the merchant, Megiddo said, but remember this. Work hard and prove your worth, for men respect those who serve well. I traveled with Aradgula to the distant city of Nineveh. Though I was but a slave, I carried myself as a free man. I greeted merchants with respect, and when I saw an opportunity to trade more profitably, I spoke to Aradgula of my ideas. He was impressed with my advice and offered me a small portion of the profits from the trade. I accepted eagerly, and from that day forward I became his trusted servant. Each time we traded, he entrusted me with greater responsibilities, and my share of the profits grew. In time, I had saved enough to purchase my freedom. Yet I did not stop there. I knew that wealth grows only when put to work. I used my savings to buy camels and began trading goods along the caravan routes. With each successful journey, my gold multiplied, and I soon became a merchant of Babylon, respected and wealthy. Sharunada leaned back and smiled. Some men would say I was lucky, he said. But I tell you, luck came to me only because I was prepared. Had I been idle, had I wasted my days in bitterness, I would still be a slave. Fortune waits for the man who is ready to act. I pondered his words and asked, but what of those who never seem to find luck at all? Luck is never far from the man who looks for it, Sharunada replied. Opportunity comes in many forms. Sometimes it is the chance to learn a new skill. Other times it is the chance to invest wisely. But fortune will not linger for the man who hesitates. He who waits for perfect conditions, or fears that he may fail, will find that opportunity has passed him by. He gestured to the fine rugs that decorated his home. Each of these was earned because I was willing to act when opportunity appeared. Had I waited, had I doubted myself, I would still be a slave. I thought of his words long after I left his home. Truly, fortune is not found by those who sit idly and hope for gold to fill their purses. It comes to the man who works hard, learns his craft, and seizes opportunity when it appears. If you would be lucky, prepare yourself now. Learn a skill that will serve you well. Watch for chances to invest wisely. And when opportunity knocks, answer quickly, for fortune waits for no man. Do not say, I shall act tomorrow, for fortune may visit today and be gone by the morning. The man who wins gold is the man who acts while others still hesitate. Be as Sharunada, who turned his misfortune into success by his courage and determination. For luck is not the gift of the gods. It is the reward of those who are ready to receive it. Prepare yourself now, and when fortune smiles, you shall be the one to call yourself the luckiest man in Babylon. That concludes the summary of The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. I hope you found the insights valuable and gained practical wisdom from its timeless lessons. Congratulations on completing the book. May its principles guide you toward financial success and prosperity.